Is wrestling content dead?
I think, are we in post-wrestling Good. I want to be in post-wrestling content.
Yeah.
There was too much of it happening. That's why we had to step away. we had to leave because there was too much happening. And it wasn't fair. It wasn't fair on the listeners. It wasn't fair on any potential listeners, you know? So we exclusively made Patreon content.
Because I was thinking about this in that, like, we were firmly in the age of the influencer wrestling content where it's all like symbiotic stuff where you just want interviews, you want to make faces when AJ Lee returns on Raw or SmackDown. That's what wrestling content is now, and like because that's the stuff that does well. Like no one's gonna make a fucking 4-hour hyper researched 18 pages of notes episode of the TNA wrestling podcasts because that's crazy. Why would anybody do that?
Why would anyone? And why would anyone listen to it more specifically?
When instead you could just make faces at the thing that happened on SmackDown this week.
Sounds so much easier.
It's substantially easier.
Not to discredit anyone that makes that content.
And if they would like to promote our content, I think that's only fair.
Are we getting into more beefs? We stepped away for like months after we had beef, and now we're coming back and we're starting more beef.
We technically speaking don't have beef with Cultaholic anymore. Or what culture? Which one did we have beef with?
It was
Cultaholic, I think. It's Cultaholic, right?
Cultaholic,
yeah. Because the man with whom we were beefing, Jack the Jobber, has gone solo.
Mm-hmm. We also like rescinded the beef on audio.
That's true. We did bury the beef, but also the beef no longer exists because he is outlastless. He's going out by himself. So we will promote Jack the Jobber, our close personal podcast friend, who again only started the podcast when we started the beef. So it is going to be very strange if he sticks with it long enough to find multiple episodes where we both have the beef, then squash the beef, then say, hey, go check out Jack the Jobber's individual stuff because putting yourself out there is tough and he deserves your support.
Also, technically, the beef wasn't with you.
That's true. I am a pure and wholesome and innocent in the world. I would never start beefs.
It's true. It's just me. I'm a problem.
So I'm worried for the state of wrestling content. Because, like, I was thinking about this when Goldberg retired. Mm-hmm. Partially because no one gave a shit. But also partially because the thing that would happen when somebody was retiring is you'd get, like, recommended match threads. You would get people doing retrospectives, deep dive podcasts. You would get people, you know, writing their personal relationship with Goldberg's biggest moments. You would get all that stuff traditionally, and that stuff's kind of gone. No one does that anymore.
I think part of it probably is maybe that wrestling just isn't that interesting now. There's like not that much to talk about. There's not like a giant hot streak of some company. It's not the 2010s and like everyone's like opening their eyes to New Japan. Like there's not like something that is emphasizing or encouraging people to go out there and be like, I need to talk about this, I need to write about this, I need to make an account dedicated to this. Because like there is still, I think maybe the content has just gotten more normie.
Yeah.
Like there's just like WWE stan accounts and things that are a lot simpler. There's not enough like sicko shit. But maybe that's the problem, is like we're just so into like the sicko shit that we don't even like see the normie stuff because it just doesn't come across our purview very often.
Yeah, and I do think the sicko shit is getting smaller, though.
I don't know. I think the sicko shit is not necessarily getting smaller. Well, maybe because, like, when I was growing up and listening to podcasts, there was, like, 8 different, like, puro deep cut podcasts that I listened to. And now there's, like, none of that. So it's like maybe there is... I don't know. I think maybe... wrestling is too homogenized and everything's kind of dull and boring. And, like, there's not enough sicko shit for people to ingest to be dedicated sicko shit accounts.
That's true. Like, what are you going to be a sicko shit guy about? Beyond?
Yeah, well, my thing was, like, I thought about sicko shit today, actually, because I was like, if I won the lottery, I wouldn't tell anyone, but there will be signs, which will be me booking Mad Dog Connolly versus Kaita Yano.
Sure, yeah.
Like, and like it would just be like a random indie pops up and this match is happening and everyone would be like, what? Like, it'd be like, because there is no sicko shit anymore.
Yeah, everyone is doing normie shit. And I do think, like, it is a consequence, I think, of the shift from the primary place where wrestling conversation is, like, defined. That shifted in the last, I think, post-COVID, really, shifted from Twitter to TikTok. And I think then the overall sensibilities of wrestling moved with it. Whereas like in 2015, you had the hardcore diehards, they were all on Twitter, and I think they had a more meaningful impact on wrestling as a whole. They were a larger portion of the voice. And now those people they're still on Twitter, they're still in their little corners, and then you have just people making their faces on TikTok that does a billion views, and that's what everyone's pandering toward.
I just think there's too much. Oh, well, we were talking about it like a couple days ago when we're talking about like user generated content is everywhere, so it's kind of nowhere because like you're just lost in the sea of things. And I feel like maybe that has translated to wrestling as well, because it's like there's so many Twitter accounts with like above 800 followers now. Yeah. And it's like that used to be like a point of, ooh, this is someone who might have something interesting to like say, but just based on like longevity alone, there's like that percentage is way higher. You can even go like more macro and be like, there at like 10 years ago, the amount of YouTube channels that were over 1 million subscribers was quite small, and now it's like 40 times that, because there's just longevity and there's more people that know about it. Like everything has expanded, which has made like the niche less important, or the niche get like washed out.
The niche is somehow even nicher. Like the percentage of which the niche takes up is smaller than it has ever been.
And then also when you pair that with the niche being less interesting.
Because like what's like the only thing you could really do an interesting niche on it, not the only thing, because like you can do Dragon Gate podcasts. Case Low and Mike Spears do.
Case Low, by the way, might legitimately be the one exception to everything we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because like I don't know if I have heard a better wrestling interviewer in like my entire time listening to wrestling content than Case Low.
Because the problem is you get one of two people interviewing wrestlers or wrestling people. You get people who know nothing about wrestling, who will just be like, oh, you know, you're coming to town, tell us about it.
Which can be kind of fun in its own thing. Like, there can be like little moments that are interesting. Seeing how people handle that dynamic is interesting more than anything.
Yeah, and you'll see Kyle Fletcher do the weather, and it'll be a fun little thing, but you're not going to learn anything about like Kyle Fletcher's mentality about professional wrestling from that kind of interview. And then the other side is the when are you coming back to this town? How did it feel to win a title, people? Which you also learn absolutely nothing from.
And then you get like the feckless cowards clout chasers.
Yeah. Whereas Case is the very interesting case of, pardon the pun, a person who has a normie platform. He works for a freaking music radio station, but somehow gets interviews with Tony Khan, but is a wrestling fan. So he can spend 7 minutes just talking about freaking Dragon Gate with Ricochet. And I'm sure Ricochet is utterly delighted to do that because no one else is going to ask him to talk about like Naruki Doi and Shima.
Yeah. I don't know. And like as a listener who cares more about like those sort of topics, it's refreshing. And also like even just how he conducts the interviews, like this is the Case Glaze session, but even like how he just conducts them, I feel like they're more interesting, and I don't know, it feels passionate in a way that like everything else feels so fucking stale.
Because it feels like they're actually... Because that's the thing that drives me crazy about like the terrible press conference questions. Because there is the crew that are always like, ask hard questions, which I'm on the side of, yes, do that too. But like, you can ask softball questions that get interesting answers. You can ask somebody about like, oh, you know, how did this pay-per-view come together? At what point did you know the main event was the main event? And like, that's not a hard question. That's not challenging somebody, but you'll get like an interesting insight into Tony Khan's booking philosophy if you ask him something like that. As opposed to like, when are you coming back to San Antonio?
Yeah. But like, I get it if you're like the San Antonio
Chronicle
star,
or whatever, yeah.
And you're like, what is the question that like your readers might care about most?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, when will this show return here?
But to circle all the way back, the point I was going to make is I think CMLL is the only like interesting thing you can make niche content about. And frankly, increasingly less niche by the day with the level of success they're having in their freaking Pokemon crossover.
Well, the more thing is like, to go on a CMLL tangent for a minute, it's like, it's only niche to us.
Yeah.
Like, in its world, it is the biggest thing, you know? And like, that's what I kind of appreciate about it. I like being on the outside a little bit and looking at CMLL and going like, wow, this thing is fucking massive and cool, and we don't talk about it in like Western wrestling media as much as we probably should, and it doesn't get the accolades that it probably should, because you look at it and you're like, this is the second biggest company in the world probably.
Yes.
It's like it's between it and AEW, like, and you can call you could call consistency versus like highlights in that argument, you know?
AEW, it depends what you're measuring. Like, CMLL sells more tickets than AEW. Like, slam dunk, easily. Maybe doubles the tickets AEW sells, if you were to do the math. AEW probably has a larger global audience. So however you want to juggle that, juggle it. But
Well, AEW definitely has a larger global audience. I don't think there's like even a debate about that. It's like, do you like again? It's like, what do you count more? Doing 10,000 seats multiple times a week or year, or hitting 80,000 in one? You know?
Yeah.
And like, I think there's merits to both the discussions. You know, like we talked about, me and Garrett like privately have talked about how crazy the Dave quote is that like CMLL, if you do all the addition, might have outdrawn WWE this year.
They might have sold more tickets in 2025. Like Dave was like, you know, he hasn't quite done the math yet, but like when you think about they sell 10 to 15,000 tickets maybe 3 times a week, like it's going to be a conversation. Like it's going to be pretty close.
So, in conclusion, wrapping up this brief segment before I have something else I want to ask in relation to wrestling content, CMLL for every award at the end of the year.
Oh yeah, like not even close. If anybody else wins like best company, best booker, I have no idea who books CMLL, which might be the problem that most people don't have any idea who books CMLL.
That was always the problem with like giving Dragon Gate its clout or whatever.
But like it is the best booked promotion. It is the most successful promotion in 20. Like there's years where like it didn't win, but WWE was the fucking biggest booming business in the history of wrestling, which I guess it technically still is, but it's kind of on the downswing of that now rather than the upswing of that. Whereas CMLL is just like runaway success, great company, just great shows to watch. The easiest watches.
Easiest shows in the goddamn world to just put on.
They just fly by. They're very simple, straightforward wrestling. You'll never be like, what the fuck is happening? Which is always the thing. People are like, oh, you know, I need the commentary. I need to speak English. It's like, it's the most like route one straightforward wrestling to understand. You should never be confused.
And like, even if you lose a little minutia, it's like, I don't think it takes away very much. And also you have the, like, maybe the best, like, most accessible range of English-speaking Twitter accounts to get you caught up. If I ever have a CMLL question, like, Rob Viper, Lucha Blog are right there, and they will answer it every time. Like, I don't even have to DM them. It's just on their fucking timeline. If I'm watching a show and I'm like, this is confusing, I can go to either of them talking about the show and I will find the answer.
Yeah, so Sarah's content not being dead between Lucha Blog and Case Low.
I was going to ask, like, what not wrestling, like, promotion-specific generated content do you watch that isn't, like, uploads from a company on the YouTube or whatever? Like, what wrestling broader content do you ingest in 2025?
I'm a very bad person to ask this question because I talk about how wrestling content is dead. I watched very little of it anyway. I'm a Days of Thunder listener. Our boys over at Days of Thunder. Shout out to Dave, who recently got married. Congratulations, Dave.
Congratulations.
That's maybe it in terms of regular stuff. In terms of like something I would regularly consume, I think it's just Days of Thunder, which is on hiatus at the moment. So I'm a hypocrite. That's what I'm talking about. I like reading. I like Joseph Montesio. I enjoy reading his content. What does Simon call his blog? Handworked.
Handwork.
Yeah, I enjoy Simon's writing, Brock's writing. So I enjoy like blogs and writing more than I enjoy like written or video or audio or video content. But yeah,
I've been watching a lot of a YouTuber called Rushmel.
Yeah.
Who makes like feud storyline summary videos where he like uses clips throughout the entire feud, and I find them really fun. They're like a really easy watch. Like I watched one that he did on Nigel's like ROH title run that was really fun.
So content dead, not ours. Our content's back.
Yeah, our content never left. You're only a hater and a hypocrite if you think that we did.